Greetings. Tonight we've got a bit of a surprise for you. We've got none other than Mike Browning chatting to us about the new Nocturnus AD album, Universal. We're going to try and deep dive with him on Nocturnus's past, his past with Morbid Angel, After Death, Acheron, those kind of bands. And we're going to talk about, the future of Nocturnus, the underlying story of the last two albums, Paradox and Universal, and how it ties in with the key, and all sorts of interesting things. So stay tuned, he's going to be with us shortly.
Cool. Yeah, I usually opt for Skype because it doesn't cap you at 45 minutes. So we'll have to check if we go over. So Mike, how are you doing? It's good to have you on the show.
All right, Johan, doing good.
Excellent, man. Yeah, amazing. You guys have come back with an album now, Universal. I was delighted. Listened to a lot of the material already. It's sounding really good, like a continuation of Paradox.
Thanks.
It's sounding really good. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about, well, for starters, I was amazed when you guys came out with Paradox, and that the whole legacy of Nocturnus got continued, which is something I always hoped for when, what was it, the album that the guys did without you, that Ethereal Tomb or something?
Oh, well, yeah, I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I know. And I bought the album and I was like, this is sort of, it's grown on me over the years, but it sort of, at the time, it was a huge disappointment because I was really looking for something along the lines of The Key or Thresholds. And so I was wondering, what's happening, And then I discovered that you were busy with After Death. And I believe you had an excursion with Acheron for a while. So anyway,
that was right after Nocturnus, actually.
yes, in a chronological sense, yes. But anyway, long story short, when Ethereal Tomb came out, I was kind of wondering, oh damn, now this is sort of the end of a band that I really enjoyed. Not in retrospect that I find Ethereal Tomb that bad nowadays, but still, it was a welcoming thing that when Paradox came out, and now that you obviously continuing with Universal. So yeah, you must be chuffed.
Yeah, we did After Death for a little while, and really the weird thing was, like, Nocturnus AD and After Death, when it first started with Nocturnus AD, was the same band exactly. But I was focusing on trying to do something a little different with After Death. The same kind of stuff, but a little different, a little wider range of stuff. And we used to do a lot of songs from The Key anyway when we play live sets. And people just kept going, why don't you just do, Nocturnus again? And because of the name situation, the trademark, I couldn't do it. So I noticed that some bands were adding something onto their old name and able to use it again.
Well, like Entombed.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then I can do what I wanted to do, because even Thresholds was supposed to be a continuation of The Key back then. But because I didn't end up singing on Thresholds, everybody wanted to write. Everybody wanted to make money from writing and this and that. And we never did that on The Key. Everything was just split evenly.
Yeah.
And then everybody started getting greedy. They started talking to other bands. Like the keyboard player was like, he found out, oh, well, this band gets paid more because, this guy writes all the stuff. So he gets paid more than the other guys. And he started getting really greedy, and then he stole the name, and then he tried to get even more greedy after I left, from what I heard. And the band only lasted 6 months after they kicked me out. So
there you go. Self implosion. Yeah.
Greed just destroyed it all.
It does.
So even, like now with the Nocturnus AD and even After Death and all that, I do all the lyrics, but I'm not going to take 50% of the money we make because I write the lyrics. I want everybody in the band to be happy. And I think the best way to do that is just to split everything because everybody works on it. So to me, that's being fair. And especially the live shows too. I know certain bands I won't name that I used to be in a long, long time ago. They pay different people different amounts of money to play the same show. And I'm like, that's terrible. You can't pay somebody that's on stage with you doing the same thing you are for the same amount of time less than what you're doing. Well, I mean, you can, but I just don't see it as right.
Yeah, but I think that's a very healthy attitude. I mean, if you want to have longevity and if you want to keep it all together, that's the way to go, I think,
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I like everybody to be happy in the band. And when people start getting greedy and want to do this and do that only because they feel they can make more money than the next person in the same band, it ruins things. And I just didn't want to ever have that happen. So I tried to keep everything, even, and no matter what, who does what. But like on Unicursal and even most of Paradox, me and the two guitar players, Damien and Belial, we sat in our rehearsal room and wrote everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of bands don't do anything like that. They mainly have like one big songwriter, especially with the music. One guy will come in and he'll even write half the album with a drum machine and just bring it in and go, here, learn this,
Yeah.
and we built each song. It was built from one riff, like, we'll go in there and I'll say, okay, Damien, throw out a riff, and he'll throw out a riff and we'll learn it, until we're happy with it. And then I'll look at Belial and go, okay, now you throw out a riff. And now with Unicursal, our keyboard player actually threw in quite a few ideas on Unicursal as well. So it was more of the four of us getting together. Our bass player was hardly ever there, and that's why he's not in the band anymore, because he hardly ever came to practice, and he never wrote one thing in the over 10 years he was in the band. And I encourage people to write and contribute. But if you don't want to do that, it just seems like, what are you here for? So, that's what happened. But like we were, the Unicursal was a huge collaboration of everybody. And that's I think it makes your music definitely more diverse, with everybody's ideas coming in, and you kind of build the songs from nothing, from one riff, and then before you know it, you got like a whole album of stuff, and it all started with just like one riff with the first song.
Yeah, yeah. But I hear that very seldomly, that bands still actually go into the jam room and hammer it out, and it definitely gives a different feel to the tracks. I mean, it's due to the times. Obviously, a lot of people, it's sort of by the grid, and like you said, drum machine or software, and just grid it down, and everybody learn it, and I think at the end, it's probably a sign of the times, but it's also makes this stuff very formulaic, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it can be done. I mean, some albums were written and the people haven't even seen each other in person. This guy will write
That's
a whole
weird.
bunch of
That's weird.
And he'll send it to the next guy in the band that's halfway across the world. Then not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it can be done, and it's done a lot actually that way now, especially nowadays. And it's kind of cool that you can do that. But there's just something completely different about getting in a room with the other people and just creating something from nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that shines through on your material. It's still, I listen to your albums and I still go, it's still sort of handmade. It doesn't, even from the production, it doesn't sound like a lot of the stuff that's coming out. Very overproduced, very, very sort of guitar sounding the same, drum sample sounding the same.
Yeah.
It's almost
like the only thing that I sampled as far as the drums was I used a different kick drum sound than mine, because I have old 1970s Vistalite kick drums that are acrylic, so they sound not very good. That acrylic bass drum just doesn't have a really good punch to it. So that was I mean, everything was recorded real, of course, and we don't use click tracks or anything like that either. We just get in there and play. I play with the 2 guitar players to do all the raw tracks. No drum lines or nothing like that.
So it's really
just
like
go in there and
still using scratch tracks, the best scratch tracks,
exactly.
and then overlays. Yeah. It's the old way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one thing that definitely keeps us having that sound, because, when you record to a click track, it makes everything sound like a machine perfect. I mean, and I understand the reason for doing that, especially with some of these albums that are so complicated and so fast. I can understand having that, click track there to have everything sound perfect, and it's easier to sync the guitars and everything after that too. But what we do is, I click the sticks, we play the song, I get a couple versions of it, we pick out the best version, and then Jarrett, who produced our album, he will actually write a click track to my drums, to what I played. So say it's 180 beats per minute, one rhythm. So it won't be 180 beats per minute for that whole rhythm. It might go to 178, 179, 180, 181. It might change in that exact same rhythm, which it wouldn't do if we had a click track already. But that gives it that real feeling. And then it still gives, then when he writes that, it takes him a little longer to write click tracks to everything I play. But then the guitar players, if they have a problem with something and want to make sure it's on time, they have a beat to go by, but it's not a steady, like 1, 2, 3. It might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It might vary a little, but that makes it, to me, that it's what I played. It's real. So
yes, and it gives it that natural push and pull.
Complain about computers doing this and that, but when you get in Pro Tools and you put your stuff to a click track, you're using a form of what AI that people hate really is kind of the same thing. If you're manipulating your drums to something else that you didn't do, then that you're letting the machine play your music. So I mean, that's the way I see it. So I never really wanted to do something to a click track, because I feel constrained when I do that, and I like to be able to kind of intensify things when I feel like I need to, or slow things down a little bit and kind of play lighter or heavier in the different rhythms. And you can't do that once you put that stuff in Pro Tools. It makes everything exactly you get, bam, you're stuck in this here. I like to be able to go this way if I want to, or this way if I want to,
that isn't that classic, what I always call push and pull, which makes, I think it's what made classic albums. I mean, I think even Rain and Blood wasn't recorded by click. It's that natural expression, it's that, and that gives it that, like it's just about to break out. And
you can feel the intensity.
Yeah, they're just about to go off the tracks, it's like kind of, and that's, otherwise it's so constrained and tame, and
Yeah, you take most albums from, say, the 70s, like Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and all that, and most of the time you're not going to be able to set up a click track and it be on time. It just does, that's the way things were done back then, and that's why the songs sounded different in the 70s and early 80s, as to where everything just right now, it's just all almost no feeling left in it. It's all just a machine playing everything.
Yeah, I find that even with a lot of metal releases, and I'm talking across genres, I find it very sterile, very lifeless, and also very. I think metal is also very guilty of. I mean, you take pop music; it's almost, sometimes I'll drive in the car and it'll just be pop playing, and I find it feels like I've been listening to the same artist now for the last 6 songs. It's the same beats, it's the same samples, but I think metal is getting very guilty of that. Where
I think you're right.
I mean, my son listens to a lot of young bands, and he often he'll pop in his Spotify in the car, and I'll go, oh, it's just all the same. I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't sound. I agree. I mean, it has its place, and there's certainly a crowd that likes to hear it like that. So that's great. And I'm glad there's a crowd for what we do, and I'm glad there's a crowd for what they do, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm not going to blast it, but I just prefer like your guys' albums. It sounds organic, it sounds real, it doesn't sound down to the grid. It's just, you know, whatever.
And my drums, I use all of my drums, my toms are roto toms. I don't have a regular drum set. It's all roto toms. And you know, like Jarrett was like, are we going to like do something with these rototoms this time? I said, nope, we're going to use the real sound. He's like, oh my God, they're so hard to mic and this and that. But I said, well, you know, we're going to do it anyway. And because I love the sound of the rototoms, and I want that sound on the album. I want the rototom sound. I don't want to sample my toms. You know, my snare is a 1967 Ludwig Superphonic Super Sensitive. 1967. I want that snare sound on there. I don't want to sample, you know, Slayer's or Pantera's snare sound. I don't want that. I get that, and a lot of people do that these days.
Yeah.
But I have my snare drum because I like the sound of it. So, you know, I mean, it might not sound as perfect as some other albums, like, you know, like perfect sound, but as far as that, and even my kicks, I don't want that typewriter bass drum sound. And I understand having it if you're playing super fast, you got to have that in a way, because you can't get that deep boom bass drum if you're playing 250 beats a minute, 280 beats a minute on the kicks. You can't get that. You have to have a sound that is short and fast, boom, you know, like that, instead of boom. And so I like the big drum sound. And, you know, unfortunately, the faster you play, the more you lose that big drum sound.
Yes. But that is another thing that I've noticed you guys have stepped on the speedometer a little bit on this album. Lots of blasts. But what I also appreciate is that not everything is just blast beats, and it's very rhythmical. And what I've always enjoyed about Nocturnus's music is it's very what's the word? It's almost like it's so rhythmical. It's so almost like entrancing, you know, like very.
Yeah.
It puts you in the zone. I don't know. I can't explain it. I think another band that's similar is Immolation. It's very.
Oh, that is probably my favorite death metal band. Those guys, Immolation is flawless. They are a band that when you see them live and you listen to their albums, you hear that they're just perfect on stage and in the studio. They can't put out a bad song. I like that band, you know, since their first record till now. Every song is just like killing you. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You know, those guys are really cool too. So
I think there are definitely parallels. Although you're not musically identical, but there is this thing where you just enjoy listening to it. It puts you in this world. You know, it's like, oh, cool, man. And with Nocturnus, obviously, there's a stronger element of. Don't get me wrong, but it's a strong. It's almost like it's music, and then there's also a storybook in the sense in that you're telling a story. I mean, you're talking about from the key to now to Paradox through to Unicursal, and it's almost like always there's a story running parallel as well, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, we did write the music all first, and then I put the lyrics in after. And the problem is that I kind of took too long to write the lyrics, and I was like slamming lyrics in near the end, right before we were recording. Even though it's been a while, we played the songs instrumentally for a long time, and I probably shouldn't have done that, because I think I wasn't enough familiar with my own lyrics, even though I wrote them. I didn't really ever get a chance to sing and play them a lot. Yeah. And I think that kind of suffered a little bit on the record. That's the one thing I wish I could have had done a little better. And this album, the way I wrote the lyrics, it is more narrative, because I kind of honed in on the stories a little bit more than usual. And like somebody had mentioned, why are you always using I this and I that? I said, well, it's first person narrative. It's a story being told by Dr. Magus, basically, on those those last 4 songs, but a lot of them, all the songs are really like little stories. So I almost wanted to be like a narrator on this album and kind of be narrative with the lyrics, but I think I did it a little too much and lost too much of my growl and stuff like that, trying to be too narrative. So probably the next album, I'll kind of mix it up a little bit even more and try to go back and get some more raspiness and craziness in there, instead of being more like narrative and telling a story with the lyrics. I mean, it works both ways,
It
but
does.
I kind of want to mix it up a little bit more than I did.
Look, yeah, I get your point. I still find it very enjoyable to listen to it, even if it's like has a bit of a narration sort of feel to it. I dig it, and I think it works very well with the music and tunes.
Well, I
Um,
like trying different things. I'm not one to like stick to too much of one formula to do something. And there's nothing wrong with that. Take a band like AC/DC.
yeah,
They stuck to one formula, and who can deny that it worked for them even in the long run. So, it can be done, but there, I like to mix things up and throw different things in there, but I also want to keep that original sound and feeling too. So it's kind of like you got to get this balance of everything to do this, and to it's very easy to sway one way or the other more. And I tried not to, but I think I did, pretty good on some things and maybe swayed a little bit too much towards a newer type of thing that I wanted to try and not enough of the older stuff. And so, I mean, I learn from my own stuff, and sometimes till the whole thing's done and out, then you really just are like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done this. And,
but
you can always think that,
sometimes
but,
you
but
sometimes you're in too deep. You don't see it clearly until you've taken a bit of distance, and
yeah, exactly.
it
But
takes.
overall, I'm really happy with it. And I know how to make the next record a little bit better, hopefully. We always want to try to do that, and it's so hard, especially when you start out with something like the key, and that wasn't, it wasn't done on. We didn't know what we were even getting into when we did it. We just were doing what we do, and then all of a sudden it became this thing that, the first band with death metal band with keyboards. I don't know if we were or not for real. I'm sure there were others before us that used them, but we kind of got named that. And when you get a record that's like that, and plus over 30 years ago, it's kind of hard to top that.
Yes.
So it's, you can, not that it can't be done, but it's kind of hard to beat a record that was kind of groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I think it's definitely a milestone. And I think you guys were very influential. I don't know if you've heard of, there was a German band in the 90s called Torture, but with CH. And they
Oh, I
also,
don't think I know that band.
yeah, and they also included keyboards, but not in the sort of technical sense as you guys did it. And I think
Yeah.
Pestilence experimented with a little bit of keyboards here and there, but never to the extent that you guys did. No. No.
Yeah. I mean, when I grew up in the 70s listening to the bands I did in the 70s, they all used keyboards, everybody. Yeah. I mean, especially, stuff like Pink Floyd, when
Oh
it comes
yes.
down to that.
Oh yes.
Zeppelin used tons of keyboards, even though they their bass player kind of switched back and forth. Rush, look at that. Rush has lots of stuff. And those are the kind of things I grew up listening to. So for me, having that in the band was just what I wanted, because that's what I listened to when I was growing up. So when I want to put a band together, of course I love metal, but there wasn't enough keyboards in metal for me, for what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
then so I kind of went back to the bands that I used to listen to that had all that and say, okay, now how can I mix these two things together? And that's basically how it happened, to get keyboards in there. And at first, I just wanted to make sure that the intros were done with a real keyboard and not movie samples and things like that, that people use. And then the band starts and you don't hear any more after the intro.
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
I kind of thought it'd be the best way to mix it in, and we just tried a little bit of it, and then it sounded good, so we're like, let's go all in and do it. everywhere.
I think it's great, and I think it sets you apart from almost any band currently out there. Really, I can't picture anything that even comes close. Obviously, there's Dream Theater and those kind of bands, but that's more like prog rock, you know. But really, if you were to, I mean, for instance, if you were to play Dortmund Death Metal Fest here in Germany, you would definitely stand out, like, because
Yeah. I mean,
wow,
to me, it's great to have influences. There's nothing wrong with having influences, but I don't want to sound like anybody else. And to me, that's was a goal that I really pushed for, was to be different.
yeah,
And sometimes stepping out of that, zone of death metal and trying to be different can be harming to you, to a lot of people that love just death metal and nothing more. So it kind of it's alienating in some ways, but then, if you don't do it, you're never going to be happy with what you do. If you want to step out of that and kind of expand.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that you guys are still safe in that zone as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, it's not the guttural growls and all the stuff that we're used to now. I mean, everybody tries to outdo themselves, in terms of how deep and how low and how gurgly and how piggy squealy and whatever. It's just ridiculous.
I
So,
know, yeah. I don't want to compete with anybody, because when you're competing,
no,
you're doing the same thing they are, just trying to be faster or heavier or better or more technical or this or that. But you're competing on doing the same thing.
yeah,
And that to me is not my goal in music. My goal in music is to not sound like anybody else at all, and have somebody say, "Wow, I've never heard anything like that before." Now, whether they like it or not is up to them.
I think, yeah.
But to me, if they say, "Wow, I've never heard anything like that before," that to me is the goal.
Yeah, I think the music should speak for itself, and there you go.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
having spoken of your ex cohorts, have you ever had contact to Luis Panzer and those guys again?
No, and I
Nothing.
don't really care to.
I can imagine.
I mean, he's done so much stuff, not musically, but weird stuff since then, that I've seen people show me, look at this, look at this, and I'm like, wow. I'm sure. I guess he's been successful in his business life and all that, but I don't know. It's I don't need those people in my life, and a lot of people get back together because of this or that, and I don't need to do that, and I don't need to get back with somebody I don't like that backstab me, so I can make $100,000 this year. I don't need it.
No, no. I think that would be very counterconstructive. I think you've got
Yeah.
a lineup and it's really working. It's sounding great. Wow.
I mean, I'd rather sell half the amount of records as Nocturnus AD than putting Nocturnus back together with the original members and making money.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
probably
me.
yeah, and probably inviting a lot of grief. You know, you
It
never know.
would be. It would be, and it would feel fake. And
Yeah.
I can't play fake music. I just can't do it. I got to play what I want to play, or else I just won't do it.
So, Mike, what are your plans? Have you got anything? You're probably doing shows in the US, but is there anything planned for Europe, especially Germany?
Not right now, but we are, just now that the album is out, we're starting to get some interest again. I mean, we were doing really well, and we were going to Europe and playing some festivals all the time. And because we can't really tour with our life situations and jobs, things like that, homes. So we were doing all right. We were doing, a few festivals a year in Europe and South America and in the US, and it was working.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and COVID just
Oh,
ruined
yeah.
everything for like 2 years. And sort of like for us, after that, we never really recovered, because we're not a touring band. If we had got right back out there and started touring, then we'd probably be where everybody else is right now. But because we can't really do that, and we can only play so many shows a year and things like that, we kind of said, well, let's just focus on writing another good record and worry about playing after. That we had some offers for some shows here and there, and we even turned them down, because it was like, let's just wait till we put another record out, and then we have that to tour with, not tour with, but play, play live. We have a bunch of new stuff. We didn't really even do much with Paradox live. We played a couple of shows here and there where we did a couple songs, but so we've had both of those albums, Paradox and Unicursal. Basically, we have not really done a proper show for any of that stuff yet.
Yeah, but
it will happen. So, we're starting to talk to some promoters now. And of course, everything, though, is looking like 2025 now because of that, because everything's got to be set up ahead of time.
Yes.
And so I think next summer will probably be, over there in Europe, and maybe early before that, South America, probably early next year, not too early, but like spring, maybe we'll do South America. And then over the summer, we'll try to hit some really good festivals next summer.
Well, you guys need to get on Dortmund Death Metal Fest. That would be awesome.
Well, because I have a long career, it is kind of lucky for me because I can do festivals and not have to do a whole 6-month tour of shows. And because there's a lot of bands that can't get on festivals, even though they're great bands. And I'm kind of lucky in that sense that I can have some connections and have a longer history to where we can get on festivals and get a decent slot too. And that way we play in front of a lot of people and we get back over there again playing. And we do 2 or 3 of those a year. That's pretty good for us to keep going, keep relevant.
Yeah, because I mean, we hear horror stories. I don't think it's as bad in Germany, from what I can tell. But I've heard that from the US. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But apparently, clubs are also now digging into merch sales and want a percentage. And
yeah, so, that's why I don't want to tour. I mean, we don't even do merch really. Our label has a shirt, and I just that's a lot of stuff to deal with. And I'll do like small merch deals with people that, hey, can we do an exclusive shirt or some patches, things like that. Like I said, I'm not really in this for making a bunch of money. I just want to put out, music and then occasionally play some really good shows. And if I can do that, that makes me happy with what I do. And I mean, of course, it would be nice to be able to go out there and play a lot of shows and have a lot of merch and all that. But that's I don't know. It's kind of hard to do all that and keep a life other than that, I'll say. So I have a daughter, I have a house, a job. If I want to keep all that stuff, I can't do too much touring and stuff. So it's and especially with the price of postage, if I was doing our own merchandise like I used to do when we'd have shirts, I mean, it costs double to send a shirt than the cost of the shirt.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, stuff like $20-something to send a shirt to Europe. That's crazy. I don't want to do that to people.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of companies that, of course, they have, really good shipping situations where they can ship for $5 or $10 or, and ship 2 or 3 shirts for that price. So to me, I'd rather work out a deal with a company and let them handle that stuff.
Exactly.
We wouldn't make money, but, and then if you're touring, of course, you could get a good deal on a lot of shirts, but you got to sell those shirts at the shows too. And the prices of that even had just skyrocketed. I see shirts at shows for $60 for a t-shirt.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah.
I hate all this inflation crap, but it's like, it just makes me mad, in a way, because I really like the old days and the way things were, and it's just never going to get back to that, unfortunately.
No, I don't think we're heading that way in a hurry. No, but
I would hate to charge somebody $60 for a shirt. I mean, I feel bad myself about it, and feel like I'm ripping them off or something, But the truth is, even when they do charge $60 for a shirt, that band is seeing maybe $10.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. I think I grabbed a key shirt the other day from Iraq because it was the closest here to get it from, instead of elsewhere. But otherwise, I mean, maybe Profound Law. I don't know where they're situated. That's your label, eh?
Canada.
Oh, they're in Canada. Okay, see, yeah. Now, if they had a European head office, then they could probably spread your merch easier.
Yeah, the thing with Profound Lure is they're an awesome label, but it's really just one person doing pretty much everything. And I got to hand it to him because he does a great job. I have no complaints, but
Very
he's
good.
getting to the point where he's probably going to have to start hiring some people because there's a lot, and he's putting out a pretty good amount of stuff now. You know, he used to maybe put out a couple albums a year, but now he's putting out a lot more. And I don't know how he does it by himself, but he's doing a great job, and I got to hand it to him because he's on top of everything, and he's always been super good with us. If you hear, that's my dog. He's got congestive heart failure, so he's not doing too good, but he's on several medications, and he gets these little coughing fits.
Interesting that you say that. We've got a similar patient here. Ours one as well.
Yeah, it sucks. He's like almost 14, so he's kind of old, but I mean, he has a lot of good time, but you know, when he gets these coughing fits, they don't last a real long time, but you know, they're kind of bad. But he's on like 3 medications now to try to stop. You can't reverse it, but you know, just to try to keep it maintained.
Yeah, it's the same with ours. It's like literally. I just said to my my girlfriend, I said, listen, I'm not going to pump her full of medication anymore. I think we just need to try and make her life as comfortable as possible. You know, it's just
that's all you can do, really. I mean,
she just gets zombied out and she stares at the walls, and it's kind of, I said, like, let her just, no, you know, she's old enough.
Yeah.
It's sad, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, especially when you've had them for a long time. You know?
Exactly.
Like, wow. So, but yeah. So if you hear those, because he's already stopped coughing now, but you know, he just has these little fits, and then they kind of stop. But he still does pretty good, so he's not at that point yet.
Yeah, we can always hope that they last longer than. Yeah, you get attached to them so much.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mike, yeah, as I prophesized, Zoom is going to cap us in about 2 minutes. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I have another one at 2. And so I don't know what time it is right now.
Yeah, then I think you're heading towards that now, eh? I think you've got
probably.
Quarter of an hour.
I mean, if you want, yeah, I know I end up talking too long sometimes.
No worries. I love talking to you, man. I'd love to continue, but I think if you're up for your next one, I think we'll cap it for now, and maybe
if you want, we can do a second part.
Yeah, sure.
I'm definitely fine with that. So you know, we can get more into the songs and stuff. I know I kind of got off kilter a couple times, but
I think I'd love to get you to talk a little bit about the topics, what's actually happening in the stories, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we could definitely do that. I mean, I have no problem doing that with you. We'll do that, you know, in probably 2 weekends, maybe.
Yeah.
Next weekend, and I got to take him to the vet too. On Saturday, when you work Monday through Friday, it's like
obviously everything lands on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we could definitely do that. I mean, I you know, I didn't mean for things to run a little late today.
No worries at all.
And have the Zoom problem, but you know, we'll definitely do a second part. That way, you can, you know, it'll be even better probably having 2 parts.
Definitely, sounds good, Mike. I'd love to. Let's do it.
Okay, sounds good then.
Okay, have a good one. It was nice chatting, and we'll chat soon.
All right, and I don't know if you want to do a little closing or something, you know, just to say we'll be back again.
Yes, I will definitely add that.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. And so everybody just check out the album, and I will see you in part 2.
Go out there, buy Unicursal, support the band.
Part 2. All right.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.